Hello, lovely people. Happy Tuesday. We are going live on a different day this week, so hope you are all doing so well and your week is off to a great start. Today we're going to be talking about how to increase your energy and vitality in just 10 minutes per day. And so I'm going to share a specific framework or skill with you. Really, it's more of a framework that we teach in our coaching programs, and it's one that we use with our clients and personally to really increase energy and vitality, which is, let's see, it's saying that it just started the live video. So can you guys let me know that you can see and hear me? I want to make sure that we are good to go because it was rolling and then it went back to zero. So let me know if you can see and hear me so I know that the sound and everything is working. Just in case we got cut off there, I'm going to just say one more time. Today's video is about how to increase energy and vitality in just 10 minutes per day. And what we're talking about is about so much more than just like feeling energized. Because, I talk to a lot of people. Okay, it kind of jumped. All right, good to know. Thanks, Jennifer. I talk to a lot of people who, it's like life feels pretty good, right? They're like, yeah, it's not that I feel exhausted all the time or something. Some do, right? Some people are like, no, I feel exhausted. I feel tired. I feel burned out. So we kind of have a spectrum here. And some people are like, no, life feels pretty good, but I just don't feel that inspired, or I just don't feel that, lit up and energized. Or maybe they're not even saying that. Maybe they're just saying like, I just kind of have this feeling there's something more. Like I'm just going through the motions. Like, things are good. I'm working. I've got my family. I'm doing this and that. Or maybe I'm working on my business. But yeah, I feel like there could be more, right? Or I could be even more fulfilled or even more alive. And so there's a spectrum here. And I want you to just reflect for a moment and maybe just tell me in the chat, where do you fall on the spectrum currently, and be honest. So are you in the place where you're like, I feel burned out and tired and exhausted and I'm like really need some more energy, right? And aliveness. Or are you in the place where you're like, no, I'm feeling pretty good, but I have that sense that there could be more, that life could be more fulfilling and I could have even more energy and vitality and I'm longing for that. So where do you fall on the spectrum? Jennifer says, goodness, yes. Goodness, yes, what? Where do you see yourself in that? So in our work, the aliveness method, which for those of you who are newer to our work, you may not have heard of before, but the aliveness method is basically the coaching and communication method developed by my mentor, Gigi Sage, who also happens to be my mom, over the last 36 years. So she's been coaching since coaching was in its baby stages, right? There weren't very many people doing it at all. And she developed this coaching framework that she uses, or set of skills and frameworks that she uses and has used with clients all over the world for decades. Now, we teach this in our coaching certification, and we also use it in our own coaching. So in any program that anyone comes in and works with us, they are being coached with elements of the aliveness method. So it's what I was personally like trained in. And what's so amazing about that in my story, some of you know, is that I started out really far on the end of the spectrum of burned out and exhausted. So I was in my previous career, online marketing, making great money, working hard, and life was pretty good. Like outside of work, I had great friends. I'd met my now husband, living in California, driving my dream car, going to the beach on the weekends. Like life was pretty good. And yet I was still having anxiety. I was still having panic attacks. I was still having this feeling deep down inside that there was something more. And so my journey to coaching and, to really into alignment with the life that I'm meant to live has been so much a journey of applying what I'm going to be teaching you here today, applying the aliveness method in general, but really also applying this particular framework I'm going to be sharing with you. And when I started to do that, I began to come alive again. and it took some time, right? It wasn't an overnight thing. I'm not promising, 10 minutes a day, like 3 days and you're done, right? It's like, no, there needs to be some consistency here. But what I really learned from my experience of being, so far on the other end of the spectrum of burned out, tired, exhausted, unfulfilled, to completely transforming my life to where I love my life. I am so lit up by what I do. It doesn't mean I don't have down days or periods where I get off or whatever, but in general, I have so much more vitality and aliveness, so much more. It's like, it just fills my being. Yeah. And that's what I want for each and every one of you, to wake up feeling inspired in the morning, to have energy and vitality that just like comes from the inside because you're so in alignment with the life that you're meant to be living. And so Jennifer says, there's definitely more out there for me than I'm currently manifesting. Okay, great. Awesome. So I love that you guys are coordinating your calls here on the chat. That's fun. Okay, so the aliveness method, going back to that. The way the aliveness method works is we usually start out, if I were coaching you as a private coaching client, for example, then I would start out by sharing with you something that we call the curiosity spectrum. And I wish that I could share screen. Someday they're going to make that a setting here on Facebook Live. I wish that I could share my screen and actually pull it up for you. So I'm just going to tell you like a brief version of it without the visual aid of the chart that we normally bring up. But the curiosity spectrum is really about how our lights go out over the course of our life. And so this is a generalization. It's not true necessarily. We've seen it to be true to some degree with everyone that we've worked with and everyone that my mentors worked with in her 36 years. But that's not to say everyone's experience is the same or any of that. So all the disclaimers, right? We're making generalizations here for the sake of educating you and really illustrating something that we've observed in tens of thousands of people. So the observation is this, that when you are a baby, right? Jennifer, Chloe, anyone else watching here, think about when you were a baby, or if you see a baby out and about, right? You're in a grocery store, you look in the eyes of a little child. Are they bright and alive and in their experience, or are they bored and tired and drained? What's typically true? Unless they're crying, right? If they're crying, then that might be an exception. But what do you typically notice when you look in the eyes of a baby, of a really young child? Someone type in the chat and let me know. What do you see? There's always a little delay, so I ask these questions and I'm like, I feel like I should just say the answer while I'm waiting for someone to type in the chat. So I'm going to tell you, but I still want you to type in the chat because I like to hear from each and every one of you. And by the way, even if you're watching the replay, I want you to engage in the chat. I do go back and read a lot of these comments. I try to catch them all. If I don't, you can send me a private message, if you ask a question or something like that. But feel free to tag me if you have a question, but I do want you engaging in the chat because it just helps you be more engaged and get more out of the training. So Jennifer says, typically happy little lights of curiosity. I love that. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, so their eyes are bright, right? Bright, they're present in their eyes, and there's a lot of curiosity and aliveness. And if you look in the eyes of a high school senior, what's the difference, typically? So I'll just tell you this time, typically, they're not going to be as bright. They're going to look a little duller. They're going to look a little less present, or maybe a lot. It depends on the person. So why does this happen? Why do we see this progression over the course of our lives? So what happens is we start out fully in our experience. Babies know exactly what they want. Young children know exactly what they want. If they want an ice cream cone, they cry and scream until they get the ice cream cone, and then they're happy as a clam. It's like in 2 seconds, yeah? So they know exactly what they want. They ask for it until they get it, or until they get distracted. And so they're completely in their experience. As they begin to grow up, and that some of this is through their own development, but a lot of this is through external forces, right? Maybe a parent says, no, you can't have that, right? Or the young child said, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And a teacher says, well, or a parent or a sibling or whoever, is that really realistic? Or something to put your lights out. And it's unintentional. People they mean well, but, or you're bullied at school, or we have these sorts of experiences that start to put our lights out, and we begin to become more self-conscious. And instead of just acting completely from our natural way of being, we begin to alter the way that we act to try to fit into society or our family or school or what have you. Typically, kids go one of two ways. They either try to fit in or they rebel. Fit in or rebel. So I'm curious, which one were you? Those of you watching, did you try to fit in or did you rebel? Conform or rebel? So nothing good or bad or right or wrong about either one. Either way, we still can have the experience of our lights going out, right? But we tend to react in one of these two ways. So I'm giving a very abbreviated version of this. Right now, I'm not going to go into the whole long description, but basically over the course of our lives, as we start to have to make, have responsibility, think about homework, think about, want to get, when we get close to graduating, what do we have to think about, right? Where do you want to go to school? What do you want to do for a living? And this is in like a typical, maybe well-off American family, for example, or maybe in other countries as well. But, not to mention if you don't have some of those same opportunities, the stressors that you're, subjected to, and just a lot happens in life, and we begin to have layers of emotion store in our bodies. These layers of emotion get stored on top of our natural light. So the light is still there. Have you guys ever heard the quote, "The eyes are the window to the soul"? The eyes are the window to the soul. What does that mean? Think about it. When you look in the eyes of a little baby, it's like their soul is staring back at you. It's like, wow, you can see it. Yeah? And less so maybe when you look in the eyes of someone that's older. And so it's not because their soul is less present necessarily. It's because there's layers of emotion and life experiences and challenging experiences that have been stored on top of that natural light, but it's still in there. So how do you begin to, as we say, wake back up and move back up the spectrum? Because it's a chart that we show, and as you're moving down the spectrum, right, lights are going out, getting dimmer, we're getting more and more kind of inside the box of our own thinking. We begin to make decisions from our head instead of our true desires and aliveness. So as we do this, our perspective of life changes and the life begins contracting. It feels like it's contracting instead of expanding. And the will to die kicks in, we always say. And that doesn't mean someone wants to die. It just means, maybe you start having health issues even. Or, the more your lights go out, the more the will to die kicks in that way. And for some people, it does show up in more extreme ways, in extreme cases. So what the end result is like you feel like you're stuck inside the box and the instructions are written on the outside, and you don't know how to get out. And symptoms of a lack of aliveness, there's a long list of them, and I don't have them all in front of me, but I often will list them out, is like, feeling a lack of clarity about what you want to do, feeling a lack of energy on a day-to-day basis, just feeling kind of blah and uninspired, right? Let me know if you can relate to any of these in the chat. In fact, I'm going to get a paper where I have some of these written down and have you tell me, and I promise we'll get to how to turn your lights back on in just a minute, but have you tell me if you can relate to any of these. So lack of energy, feeling tired, exhausted, or even burned out. That's number one. Just put a 1 in the chat if you can relate to that. Number 2 is lack of clarity, feeling confused or unclear about what you want. Number 3 is a lack of fulfillment, feeling dissatisfied, uninspired, or unfulfilled. So go ahead and type the number in the chat for any of these you relate to. Number 4, having that deep down sense there's something more to life, but you're not sure what it is or how to create it. That's number 4. 5 is feeling frustrated, just a general sense of frustration. Number 6 is feeling stuck. Number 7, getting caught up in the same fears, doubts, or patterns again and again. Number 8, feeling envious of other people who seem to be truly fulfilled or have something you want. Now, you might be typing a lot of numbers in the chat right now, and don't be hard on yourself, because when I do this as a live event and talk about this, people raise their hand. If you relate to this now or in like sometime in the past, recent past, people typically raise their hand on every single one. So don't feel self-conscious if that's you. Number 9, being self-critical, having negative self-talk or being hard on yourself. And number 10, feeling like you should just be grateful for what you have, and you are, but deep down a part of you is longing for more. Number 10. So those are all symptoms of, I say, like a lack of aliveness or being kind of moving down the spectrum in that sense. As we begin to move up the spectrum again, well, let's talk about how that happens. That is what the aliveness method is designed to do. This is why I go over this in every initial call with like a private coaching client, is they need to understand what we're even doing here. They might come to me for business coaching, right? Or they might come into our coaching certification, or, whatever it is that they come for. And it's like, great, we're going to do that, but we're also going to talk about aliveness, right? We're going to talk about alignment. We're going to make sure that whatever you're creating is actually in alignment for you, for your soul, for your life path and what you're here to do. Because otherwise, you're just going to come up with a bunch of good ideas and strategies, and yeah, maybe you'll hit some goals, but we're going to still be dealing with a lot of these symptoms, right? With things just not quite feeling right. It's like, man, my life seems like it's getting better. This is what you hear from people all the time. I'm making a lot more money. Life is pretty good. Why am I not happy, right? Or why am I not totally fulfilled? And it's the aliveness piece. This is what I want to tell you. So it's like this thing that we have to educate people about, because they don't even know it exists in some way. They just know there's something missing or something not quite what they thought it would be. So how you come back alive and move up the chart again is, there's a few ways. One is, some people have like a spiritual experience that wakes them back up and they begin to see the world in a different way. Some people have a life-altering event or loss. So you might, not creating this, but someone might go out and get in a car accident, or have an illness or a divorce, or, lose a job, and they just it wakes them up and they go, oh my God. Either they go, wow, I need to change my life. This isn't actually in alignment for me. Or, wow, I have a great life. I need to be even more grateful and look at things differently. And the last way that people wake back up and begin to move back up the spectrum again is what we call education. And education is what we do in the aliveness method. I would say education and transformation, right? Education and transformation. So it's not enough to just learn it up here. You have to actually transform. It needs to be embodied and to really make those shifts in your life. So that is what began to happen to me as I trained in the aliveness method, is I began to come alive again. I applied everything I learned to myself, and I began to come alive again, have so much more energy and vitality. And what's amazing is that as this happens and you begin to get more in alignment with that happy baby inside, or with your soul that's always there, and it begins to shine through, a few things happen. One is, you begin to see the shifts physiologically. You will actually see people's eyes become brighter, stronger, more present. Yeah, if you guys have ever seen, I've sometimes posted the before and after pictures of, people when they start to have these kinds of transformations. Let's see, can I post pictures here? No, I can't do it while I'm on these lives. Again, I wish I could share my screen and I'd pull these up. But you begin to see really physiological changes happen as people apply these methods to their life. And get coached and work through these frameworks. So that happens. The other thing is, remember I talked about life contracting before. Life begins to expand and our perspective begins to change. So the will to live kicks in and our perspective changes. Have you ever had an experience where you're just in a bad mood, or you're going through a hard time and it looks like nothing in your life is working? I'm curious, type in the chat. Have you ever had that experience? Just everything you look at, even if you thought it was working a few days ago, you're just no, nothing's working. You just can't see. It's obstacles everywhere. Say yes if you've ever had that experience in the chat. Now, have you ever had the opposite experience? Maybe a few days later you get a raise, or, your significant other proposes, or, you go on vacation, and all of a sudden, like within a few days, your perspective is so different. You're seeing life in a completely different way. And you're like, oh my gosh, I was crazy the other day, right? When I thought nothing was working. I have so much to be grateful for, right? And you start seeing everything that is working, and you start in the chat. Great. So that is when you are in a different perspective, right? You have more aliveness in that moment, and your vibration literally changes. And so that's what we're talking about here with moving back up the chart again. So how do you increase your energy and vitality? The first thing, and write this down, is that at every moment, your vitality is increasing or decreasing. What do I mean by that? When it's increasing, you are more energized, alive, you feel more peaceful, you feel more fulfilled, you feel more in flow, you feel more like your true self. So aliveness doesn't mean, oh, I'm so excited and passionate all the time, right? That's like hyped up energy. Aliveness can be very peaceful, right? Peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. It can be deeply fulfilled, in that quiet sort of way. Or it can be more energized. It doesn't matter. But these are examples of, as your energy is increasing, you'll feel some of these things. As it's decreasing, you'll feel more tired, more drained, bored, disinterested, dissatisfied. Yeah. So the first thing you want to do is begin to notice. Begin to notice throughout your days. So hopefully you're writing this down. Begin to notice, when is your vitality increasing? When is your vitality decreasing? When is it increasing? When is it decreasing? What are you doing when your vitality is, when you have more aliveness, when you feel more peaceful, more fulfilled, more like your true self? And what are you doing when you feel bored, tired, drained, or disinterested? Okay. Now, why does this matter to notice this? We have another quote, which you might want to write down, which is, aliveness is the compass that points the way to your most extraordinary life. Aliveness is the compass that points the way to your most extraordinary life. What do I mean by that? Most coaches, in my experience, because I've worked with many, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching, and I've worked with some great coaches, right? Most of them, I would say, have been great on the strategy side. Yeah, like the strategy of how to build a coaching business or how to get from point A to point B. And some of them have some strong coaching skills in other areas as well. But to me, the true art of coaching is this. It is the ability to sit with someone and help them tap into their deepest desires and longings. What's really on their heart. Yeah. And what is that desire? And then how can they align with that and move their life in that direction so that they are not only more successful, if that's something they desire, or successful in the area you support them with. Maybe you're a family coach or a sex coach or whatever you are, right? But also in general, more alive, more fulfilled, and more in alignment with what their soul is meant to do, with what they came here to do, or God put on their heart to do, or whatever your belief system is, right? We all have that feeling deep inside that we're meant for something. It doesn't need to be some grandiose thing, or it could be, but we're meant for something. We're here for a reason. And so how do you help people actually discover what that is and align with it? Or how do you discover what it is and align with it, right? If you're more in the place of like trying to figure that out for yourself. Well, that's what this is all about. And so to me, the most powerful coaching I've ever experienced is when someone can really dive in and help me discover that, and help me really see what I'm truly longing for, and what's on my heart and soul to do, and what brings me alive, and what would be the version of my future where I would fully step into that. What do I see there? What's the vision? And then what could get in the way of that? What are my blind spots? What are my patterns? What are the things that get in my way? And then from there, you can come up with the plan and the strategy and the structure. But what I find is that most coaches jump the gun and they go to the strategy and the structure too quickly because they just don't know how to do this. And so if you're in the position of, growing your own business and you're looking for support, you can go out and take a million programs on strategy where they're going to teach you a lot of different things to do that either they've done or other people have done that have worked for them. And that's great. It's important to learn strategies. But what about the alignment piece? What about the aliveness piece? You can do all that stuff and not be any more fulfilled. Or maybe it doesn't even work because it wasn't aligned for you in the first place, right? Or you can come in and really work with coaches, whether it be us or some of our trained coaches or one of our programs, or maybe there's other people out there doing some other version of this, right? But work with people who really can help you dig deep. And not only dig deep by asking you what would you love to do, but there's a tool that we teach in the aliveness method, which is how do you actually use someone's vitality and aliveness and the light in their eyes as the compass that points the way to their most extraordinary life, which is completely unique for them. It's completely unique for them. Are you guys still with me? Say, I'm with you in the chat if you're still with me, because I'm on a little roll here. All right, I want to make sure I'm not losing you. So what your most extraordinary life, the life that you came here to live, that will make you the most lit up, happy, fulfilled little soul there is, or big soul there is 100% unique to you. There is no one exactly like you on the entire planet. And so that is what the aliveness method is all about. How do we get you in touch with that? Yeah? Help you see what is that? And it is ever evolving. It is ever evolving. As we get more of what we want, then there's more there, right? So that's what we're talking about here. And then from there, you can put the strategy around it. Yeah? So what else do I want to say about that? So coming back to your aliveness is the compass that points the way to your most extraordinary life. Literally, as you learn to track this yourself, and we teach this in some of our programs, we teach you an extended version of what I'm talking about today called Charting Your Aliveness, where you learn to track very carefully, when is your vitality increasing? When is it decreasing? What are you doing when you feel really nourished and you truly unwind? We teach a whole framework and system around this. That's so powerful, because then you can take that forward and begin to make these adjustments yourself to get more in alignment with your aliveness. On the other hand, we teach our coaches who go through our coaching certification how to use this framework with others and, use curiosity to learn to watch for those shifts in vitality by watching the light in the eyes. And there's nothing more powerful than sitting with a coach that is truly trained in this and can hold that space for you and reflect back where they see that vitality and that aliveness. It just clarifies things so quickly. Yeah. I have a client I'm working with now, very successful. She's doing great in her business. She wants to double in her revenue. And so she's a high achiever. It's not like there's a lot of problems, but that facilitation of, in some cases, the strategy side we're working on, but also the facilitation of being able to reflect back to her, hey, here's all the different things you shared with me. Here's where I saw the light. Here's where the energy was. Here's where the most vitality was. That gives her powerful clues that point her in the direction of her most extraordinary life. So I don't want to take too much longer today. So I want to just wrap up with, well, first of all, any questions, type them in the chat. And then I just want to wrap up with, how do you actually go out and apply this? Well, I basically told you already. You're going to take a pen and paper and you're going to, put a smiley face on one side, put a frowny face on the other. This is a very simplified version of the Charting Your Aliveness exercise. And just begin to notice, observe over the next 30 days, when is your vitality increasing and when is it decreasing? And write them down. Write down what you're doing. Write down who you're with, or, if you were online, what were you doing online? If you were reading a magazine or listening to a podcast, what was it about it that brought you alive or made you curious or interested? Or what was it about it that made you feel drained, tired, bored? Yeah, so you're going to track. And why we track is, we always say, awareness begins to create the change. Awareness begins to create the change. So just by observing, you will start to make distinctions, powerful distinctions, and go, oh, I actually have way more energy when I do this kind of thing, and this kind of thing really tires me out or makes me feel bored or tired, yeah? So you can begin to make these distinctions. So that is so, so powerful. And then even if you begin to take one thing that really brought you alive, track for 30 days, we always say, and then take one thing that really brings you alive and begin to add more of that in for the next 30 days. You will start to see huge shifts in your energy and your vitality. It seems so simple. People are like, it can't be that easy. Well, it is simple. It's not easy because most people learn this and they don't actually do it. So I want you to actually go out there and do it. Can I get a I'm in if you guys are going to try this? Go out there and actually do it. Track for 30 days, and then for 30 days, begin to add more of the things that bring you alive into your life. And then report back. Let us know in the Facebook group, how's it going? What's shifting for you? What's changing? Yeah. And what else? What else do I want to share about that? I think that's pretty much it. So Jennifer said she's totally in. So that's how you begin to increase your energy and vitality in just 10 minutes per day, because you will, be doing this here and there throughout your day. Do it at the end of the day if you need to. And that's going to help you make some really powerful distinctions. Now, there's so much more I could talk about. Awesome. Love that you are all in. There's so much more I could talk about on this. Obviously, I could talk all day about it. But I really want you, those of you in here in this group, if you're in our Facebook group, maybe you're watching this on another platform. If so, that's okay. But most of you are coaches or speakers or experts, or you want to be. And so you want to really be incorporating the elements of what bring you alive into your business. Yeah, because that is where you become the most magnetic. So like Jennifer, I know you're in our business boot camp. And for you, as you go through the program, I think you're probably already starting to do this, but want to really see what are your, as we call them, magnetizers. When do you become the most magnetic? So you're building a business that's in alignment with the life that you're meant to lead, with the impact you're here to make. So if any of you are curious about our business coaching program for coaches and speakers and experts, consultants, just type business in the chat and we'll reach out to you and share more. If you're curious about it, we can do a free coaching call with you, to just like a coaching session to help you really start to get clear on that vision, what's holding you back, and then see from there if it seems like a fit to move you into that program. I also have another great program called Package Your Wisdom, which Jennifer went through, and some of you may have heard me talk about in the past. It used to be run as a live challenge, and I've actually packaged it up as a pre-recorded program that you can now go through on your own time. That is a really affordable way to get started if you are a coach or wanting to become one, and you're looking at like, how do I want to package and, how do I want to take my life wisdom that I've learned and package that all up and share those gifts with others, right? And then really get clear on your packages, your pricing, your message, your target market, so you feel crystal clear and client ready. So that program is really affordable. I made that like my entry level program, and it's a ton of value. Maybe Jennifer, if you're still here, you could just like say 2 words to speak to how that program was for you. If you guys are curious about that, just type wisdom in the chat. So if you're curious about more of a hands-on business coaching program where you're really getting, personalized support and everything, then type business in the chat. If you're curious about Package Your Wisdom, type wisdom in the chat. I will be back next week. I'm going to actually be doing a series of lives on our World Changer quiz. So if you haven't taken our World Changer quiz yet, it's a free quiz. You can go to www.worldchangerquiz.com, take that free quiz, and Jennifer says wisdom itself was so eye-opening. Yeah, thank you so much. So worldchangerquiz.com, take the free quiz, find out your results, and then come to the next call, which is next Monday, I believe. So there's going to be a 3-part series. We have how to get into your zone of genius, which is the World Changer Quiz Part 1. That's next week. How to get better results and have fun doing it. That's World Changer Quiz Part 2 on August, I think 8th or 9th. And then how to create your winning team, World Changer Quiz Part 3. So all different ways of using your results in the World Changer Quiz to get more into your function, to get better results, and to create a really phenomenal team around you that frees you up to be in your sweet spot. All right, so if anybody has any questions, just type them in the chat, tag me if you're watching the replay, and thank you all for being here. Takaya, I'll make sure to get you that info about Package Your Wisdom. I'm going to send you a friend request right now. Will you make sure to accept that, because otherwise I won't be able to message you. That's true for anyone who types business or wisdom in the chat and the replay. You'll need to send me a friend request, otherwise I can't message you. It's going to go to your other box and you're never going to see it. So you're going to be like, why did McKenna never reach out to me? And I'm going to be like, I tried. So yeah, so if you do that first, then I'll make sure my team gets you that information. Okay, everyone. So much love to you all. I will see you all next week. Bye-bye. Have a great week.